How do you like the way your second-year players in Ice and KK and Ash have all come along this year?
I think pretty good. I mean, we have a long way to go, obviously, but I think in the short term, I think they've kind of continued on the path that they were on. Right now, I think anybody is shooting the ball great on our team, except Paige is, but I don't think anybody's shooting the ball exceptionally well. So that'll get better. But KK's, assist to turnover ratio is fantastic. So she's done a great job of, making the right play, and and Ash just does Ash things. Like you just turn her loose and let's see what she does. And Ice has been solid. I don't know that there's an area that you would say defensively she's been really good. I think she's done a really good job defensively for the most part. I think we might need a little more out of her offensively down the road, but I think all three of them have done pretty much what I expected going in. The interesting thing that I like is that for now anyway, Ash and KK, you've got two guys that started 30-some games last year and played a huge part in us getting to the Final Four. Theoretically being the head of that second unit, when we get health, when everybody's back, which we almost all are, but now that AZ's back, we've got something that we never had at any time last year, the ability to change the complexion of games. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what else is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. This will tell a lot, obviously, these next 3 weeks till the 21st.
KK says she embraces being a menace. Where does she rank in the all UConn menace team? Because you've had some menaces.
Yeah, I mean, we have. I don't know that we've had a lot of TikTok menaces. I guess that's a 2024 version of the original Dennis the Menace. But I like for her I like to see her be more of a menace defensively. I like to see her create more opportunities for us on the defensive end. We've been working with her on that, where to position yourself so that you can be disruptive, more disruptive than you're being. So I think it's going to get even better for her, So I like where she's at. I like where she is mentally and physically right now.
How was it seeing AZ perform the way she did against Ole Miss? Some of the players were saying it looked like the old AZ.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, it did. Although I don't know how they know what the old AZ looks like. A lot of these players have never seen, any version of AZ. But those of us who did, it was great to see it happening in game situations against a team that's hard to do it against. And same with everybody else. I think that's a start, and it's a great start for her, and I think it'll get even better, with a little more work. Everything's been simulated up to last weekend, so this will be good. This will be good.
All the players that came out here talked about confidence as a theme. As a coach, how do you build their confidence up?
Well, that's a tricky thing. I think if you're going to come and play at Connecticut, you better have a lot of confidence in yourself. because if you don't, you're going to get exposed right away. So playing here requires a lot of confidence. Being able to manage the expectations here requires a lot of confidence. Not pretend confidence, not, faux style stuff that, a lot of kids have, and then the minute they're smacked in the face, their true selves come out, real, honest to goodness confidence. And you have to bring a lot of that with you here. And then by what you do every day in practice, you add to it. I keep reminding them all the time, you can't go up to the meal room and go, I'll have some, eggs and I'm going to have a salad, and can you throw a little bit of confidence in there? It'd be really good. You have to bring it, and then you have to develop it every day in practice by succeeding at the things the situations we put you in. And so far, we're getting better at it. I don't want to say that we're the most confident team I've ever coached, because we're far from it. But I think with every test that we face, whether it was at North Carolina or whether it was the Ole Miss game, our confidence level is going to go up a little bit.
Where would you say Ice's confidence is in particular? Because she wavers when she talks to us, but you saw in the Big East tournament when she had to play, she played with confidence.
Yeah. Ice's confidence depends on the last play sometimes, and that's not good. So the thing that we're trying to help her with is understand that the last play is the last play. Doesn't mean anything, and that has no effect on the next play. The play that we're making right now is the one that matters. And you're not sky high after making a great play, and you're not down in the dumps after making a bad play. That's why our offense is up and down and inconsistent. But defensively, I think she's figured some things out. So that's been a real positive. But yeah, she has to learn to shake off things that don't go her way. She's still way too much affected by that.
How important is our games like tomorrow ahead of what you guys have coming next week? Louisville, Notre Dame, then USC eventually. How important is it just to do a bit more experimenting with combinations?
Yeah, you only get so many of these games, right? You get, if you're lucky, you get 30-some times to play. So you don't want to take any of them lightly. You don't want to take any of them for granted. And if you're a player on our team, tomorrow's another opportunity for you to kind of secure a little more playing time for yourself, a little more, respect from the players, from the coaching staff, add to your level of confidence that you already have. So, yeah, object number one is to win, win the game. And number two, to try to be able to, put some combinations out there that you either look at them and go, I think this could work, or you go, well, these guys will never be out there together in a meaningful minute. So these are things that you're trying to acquire, because you have no idea going into some of these games later in the season, as we found out, who's going to be available that day, who's in foul trouble, who's, got a little tummy ache and can't play that day, Any and all those things that moms and dads worry about their little children.
Did you try and balance out the top-heavy portion of your schedule with the South Carolinas, the USCs, the Notre Dames, with some more regional opponents to give you some time to build into the year?
I don't know. I don't know how it worked, because the way the schedule fell this year, because of what happened last year, the South Carolina thing got messed up a few years ago, so that should probably be a home game. The Tennessee thing, got a little bit jumbled up because of some COVID stuff and the aftermath, and so that should be a home game because last time we played them. So the way things ended up, we had so many non-conference games on the road this year, or neutral sites. And so we tried to figure out, well, what do we need? And obviously we want a good home schedule for our fans. Yet at the same time, you know, with so many young players, you can't load up your schedule with nothing but top 20 teams. You know, that makes sense some years, but it wouldn't make sense this year. And if you're going to do that, then, you know, do it the way we did it. You know, why bring in teams from around the country when there's plenty of teams that would love the opportunity to play here, you know, right here in our area.
Do you look at Barkley as almost a home game for you, or is it different?
I mean, anytime you're away from Gamble, you know, sometimes it's the same down at the XL Center. You know, you got to go there the day before. You got to stay overnight in the hotel. But yeah, it's a bus ride. You know, it's hopefully a great UConn, you know, presence down there. You know, we've enjoyed, you know, tremendous success in New York City. So I don't consider it necessarily a home game. I'd feel a lot better, you know, if we played teams like Louisville, Iowa State, and Gamble. But there's a reason why you play these games, and I think in the future there's probably going to be more of them, you know, made for TV or made for event type of games.
Stewie going to treat you to dinner?
No, I don't know. I think she's still in Spain with her family. So she has an excuse, because even if she wasn't in Brooklyn, she's not. You have to understand something about my players. They're not paying for anything. That's why the biggest shocker of last week was that they all paid to come here. And I think we did that on purpose. We're going to say, all right, let's see who really wants to be here, as opposed to, you know, somebody getting a free trip to stores. But no, and it's we've never played in Barkley. You know, we play at the Garden a bunch, but we've never played in Barkley. It's a beautiful place.
You said there's a reason you play those games. Is it to play a good team like Louisville in a neutral site, or is it just
No, not necessarily. I think a lot more, you know, opportunities to play on, for instance, non-traditional. This is on Big Fox, so they don't do a ton of women's basketball games or men's basketball games. Everything's like on FS1 and all that. So you get an opportunity to play on the big network in a big setting, you know, in New York at Christmas, you know, season. Yeah, you want to take advantage of that. And going forward, you know, there's financial reasons why you're going to end up playing these games. You know, and I like big games and big arenas. I think they're great to prepare you for, you know, what you're going to have to do in March.
Geno, you've talked about this before a little bit, but are your rides in and back home a little different now? Because you're talking about combinations and the ability to have players and numbers, and, you know, how does that make you feel? Does it stress you out more because you got to find the combinations, or is it?
Yeah. As difficult as it is to only have 6 or 7 players available to you on any given night, the only glimmer of hope in those situations is the players like it because they know they ain't coming out. The coaches like it because I don't have guys moaning and groaning on the bench that they're not playing. So there is some comfort in that. But the downside is awfully huge. Now that you have players available, finding the right combinations is not easy. You know, and doing it in practice is one thing, but finding the right combinations in games, you try to orchestrate it as much as you can. But, you know, we've kind of made a decision as a coaching staff. We're going to go to that second unit as much as we can because I think we've got a second unit that is technically, they're starters. Because, you know, when Aubrey comes back, Aubrey used to be a starter, you know. KK, Ash, you know, you got guys that are going to be really, I think, way different than what other people's second units are going to be. So, yeah, it's a great luxury to have. But it comes with some headaches.
You talk about Ash moving into that second unit. Do you feel like AZ is at the point where she's ready to step back into a starting role, or is there something you're still waiting to see from her?
Well, I was hoping that what we would see in the Bahamas was someone that kind of, you know, acclimated back fairly easily, you know. And I think for the most part, that second half, you know, against Ole Miss, pretty much signified that, yeah, you know, I'm, you know, but at the same time, you know, yesterday we went pretty hard in practice, and I made her sit out like the last 20 minutes of it, and she said, "Why'd you do that?" I said, "Because I'm sure you were pretty worn out coming from that trip." She goes, "Yeah, a little bit," you know. So it still takes time to get into playing shape. But no, I love what I saw, and yeah, it's. You know, I don't think anybody's going to go, "Oh my God, I can't believe AZ's in the starting lineup. What's wrong with him?" Yeah, I think that's a good assumption.
What'd you see other than shot making?
You know, AZ's body is way different than it was. You know, she spent so much time working so hard on every aspect of you know, her conditioning and her strength, and her defense was always pretty good, and it's gotten even better. Her you know, just her physicality was always there, but it's gotten even more pronounced. And I just think the presence that she has on the floor and what it means to the other players when they see her on the floor, and how it changes the way the other team has to play you. That's evident, like, immediately when she's on the floor.
Is she a little more free? I mean, she said early in the season, like, I'm not going to think too far ahead. I'm just going to take the moments. Are you seeing that as a coach, where she's maybe not, you know, too tight in there and, you know, trying to make things happen too fast? I know it's only been a small sample size.
Yeah. I mean, AZ's a thinker, so I wouldn't necessarily label her a flower child. You know, I don't think she's going to be that yet. You know, I do think she takes great pride in the fact that she thinks things through, and I'm glad that she's working on letting go of a lot of things and just playing free. And you see glimpses of it every day. Every day. There's still some things that I want to help her with, but, you know, compared after her freshman year, it's almost at the other end of the spectrum. Almost. Not quite.
Can you talk about Coach Carnesecca from coaches, as a fellow coach, as a fellow Italian immigrant?
Yeah.
Today,
You know,
what he did off the court.
Yeah, when I was reading a lot of stories, you know, on his obituaries, it really made me smile. Last time I saw Coach was at a Lapchick Award that CD won in New York City, and he was there, and I got my picture taken with him again, you know, and I saved it because I figured, you know, he's getting to that age. Always kind of identified a little bit with him because, you know, when I got into coaching, he mentioned this about his parents. When I got into coaching, and then my father was like, what's wrong with you? You know, and not understanding anything about why anybody would want to do this. Why don't you get a real job? You know, and not being, being good enough a player, but not being good enough, and yet having more success as a coach than as a player. And other than his little foray into the pros, being at one school, the only college he's coached at his entire career. Known as somewhat of a colorful character by other people. So reading his story and thinking of my own life, I had a big smile on my face because I remember him vividly. Whenever we interacted, he treated me like I was his grandson. And I always felt kind of, he's about this big, and I looked up to him though.
About the impact from the outside, the impact he made on New York basketball. And it hasn't been the same since.
Yeah, that's the thing. People talk about, at New York being the cradle of high school, college, pro, and when you think about the great high school players that came out of New York, it was just incredible the impact that they had around the country, because so many of them did go out of New York. Not all of them stayed. At one time they did, and then they didn't. And then when Coach took over at St. John's, he was able to then reverse the trend again and keep all those kids in New York. And because if you're big in New York, St. John's actually is New York's basketball team when the Knicks are not playing well. So all those years that the Knicks were down, St. John's was the basketball of New York. Now it's obviously flipped a little bit with the success that the Knicks are having, but the impact he had on New York basketball, the way he made St. John's a household name, and he's part of the Mount Rushmore of the Big East. So when they write the entire history of the Big East, he and the original guys, right? He and Jim Boeheim and John Thompson. They were the very, very beginning. And then Rowley came in, and then Coach Calhoun came in, and then Rick Pitino came in. And it became legendary. But I think those original members, man, they bought Dave Gavitt's dream, and then they turned it into a reality, even greater than I bet you even Dave could have ever imagined. I mean, think about a basketball conference that created a network and had their own night. I mean, think about it. Nobody's going to admit this, but Big East men's basketball created ESPN basketball. And when you have something called Big Monday, and it was the night that Big East men's basketball was on every Monday, pretty hard not to, you can't overemphasize what those guys did.
Coach, do you have any expectations for the Louisville game this Saturday about what you want your team to be doing?
What I want them to be doing? Well, I mean, anytime we play a really good team, it's going to be a great test, and I'm convinced that the way Jeff coaches Louisville and how they compete, it's a game that you go in thinking we could very easily lose this because they're really, really good. So you want to go down there, and I told them in the Bahamas, I said, I'm anxious to see whether or not we have like a killer instinct in us. Because everybody says, you have such a bunch of nice kids. I'm like, yeah, well, my daughter Alyssa's a nice kid, but I wouldn't want her on my team. Like you got to have some, and these are games where you find out, like you have that, you know, you better have it, you know. So, yeah, some of the intangibles is what I want to see. Yeah, yeah.
Did you
And I
see,
want to see Paige squirm when she sees how much things cost in New York, and she has to spend some of her own money.
did you see part of that killer instinct in the fourth quarter against
Yeah,
Ole
yeah.
Miss and won it in the
Yeah,
whole
because I
second half
wasn't.
now?
Yeah, because I wasn't sure going in. Each team has to develop an identity for itself, and our identity can be the first half, okay, where we thoroughly dominated the entire 20 minutes. We could have left there with our identity being that third quarter where we were dominated for 10 minutes. So we came back in that fourth quarter and showed something, and that's going to go a long way, you know. But we're going to need to do it again, you know, at Barclays, and we're going to have to do it again, you know, at Notre Dame, and we're going to have to do it again against Iowa State, and we'll have to do it again against Georgetown, and we're going to have to do it again against USC. So, yeah, Christmas can't come fast enough.
Thanks, Geno.